My fiance and I have different views on marriage. My perspective is a little bit more traditional, and his is a little bit more modern. And a lot of times in our early days of our relationship, it would cause a lot of issues because I would explain my perspective, and usually from the lens of why it is that I had that perspective and how my perspective made me feel. And it would invite a lot of negotiation and debate. And I am a very powerful, intellectual, open minded woman. In fact, for a long time, I've loved debate. But what those conversations would turn into was a negotiation about things that were really important to me because I would introduce my perspective, give feelings, and then give justifications that I had for viewing the world through this way about marriage. And then my fiance would also introduce his perspective and then his logic as to how to rebuttal my worldview. And it would get to a point where neither of us felt like we were coming together and connecting. In fact, a lot of the times through those conversations, it felt like we were being torn apart because we were just going head to head about the way that we viewed the world. And we were never reaching a middle ground or a resolution. And then, I thought, okay, I just need to set boundaries. And I felt the urge to just say, well, this is what I want, either give it to me or don't. And that caused conflict in our relationship too, because it made him feel like his thought process wasn't being taken into account. And so I was constantly tossed between two sides of feeling like I should explain myself to my fiance and then feeling like explaining myself was never getting us anywhere because everything that I felt like was important to me became a negotiation or a debate. Here is the problem. There's a middle ground. You can set boundaries in a relationship that are powerful and still get you respect without them needing to be overtly, loudly announced to assert yourself and what you think to be right as an authority. The way of communicating what it is that you want from your partner comes very simply. And I like to call it sensual sovereignty. What that essentially means is a blend of being in touch with energy, being in touch with your body, being in touch with how you feel, being in touch with how your partner feels. That is all something that stems from your sensuality and your softness, but then also maintaining a certain level of sovereignty. Now, sovereignty is a concept that can usually be seen being used in politics and war and nations. When you think of a sovereign nation, you think of a country that's entirely independent and governs itself. The same concept applies to you as a woman. You govern yourself. Nobody is involved in the decision making process of what it is that you feel like is right for your life. Now, the magic of not running into the problem where you are over explaining yourself in situations with your partner or a man about things that you feel like you are or aren't okay with comes from blending your sensuality and your sovereignty together. What that would look like in the context of the situation I mentioned earlier of me and my fiance is exactly the way I ended up playing that situation out, which was first, I started off with acknowledging that I have a certain worldview and that it comes from a place of me going through certain experiences that have made me calibrate myself to what I'm comfortable with. And nothing is really going to change that, and it's not really up for negotiation. And then the second part of that was me acknowledging that the same applies to my fiance. I'm not trying to explain myself, but neither should he. His experiences have shaped him to be the man that he is today, and he has every right to view the world a certain way and have opinions on marriage, on partnership, on anything relating to, things that are unique to his life and what he's been through. What makes the conflict really easy to overcome, though, is not looking at life through the lens of my way or your way, but rather, what do we need to do to resolve this difference in perspectives? Is there a compromise that we can both arise upon that allows us both to feel like we're fully embodying in our power and not giving up a piece of ourselves and what's important to us, but still gives us both what we want? I like to call this a sacred alliance. What you're going to see me talk a lot about on this channel is the lifestyle and the values of living like a sovereign heiress, because I feel like a lot of women who have grown up incredibly powerful, who keeping their power is incredibly important to them, maybe because they were raised in a really powerful family. You know, they know they were born to be leaders and they know that they're meant to use their power for good, often don't know how to move through the world in a way that serves them. And if you're watching this video, it's likely that you're in a stage of your life where you feel like you've finally been able to get power over your own life through becoming independent, but there is a way of embodying that power in a way that doesn't overly exert it outside of yourself, but rather just allows you to maintain a level of emotional regulation within yourself to really keep your eye on the prize, which is getting what you want, right? The situation that I explained earlier between me and my fiance wasn't ultimately about me being right. I am not trying to overly explain myself to my fiance in the hopes that he's going to give me the validation of me being correct, so long as I know I'm correct. And I am correct as long as my boundaries come from a place of being true to me and taking care of me and my well-being. So after that point, all that really matters is him explaining his boundaries as a person who has their own experiences, and then us both sitting down as two people who love each other and care about each other, figuring out a way to take those unique sets of boundaries and blend them together to resolve the conflict. It doesn't need to be that complicated. I want women who are extremely powerful to call back their power. Situations like this happen when you're leaking energy and you're not actually stepping into being powerful internally, and you're feeling like in order to maintain your power, you need to exert your power externally by convincing somebody else that the way that you view the world is the right way of living. But you're not actually as powerful as you think if you feel like you need to convince other people what you think is right. Ultimately, if you think it's right, then that's that. Conflict resolution should be your main goal. Keep your eye on the prize. Focus on what you actually care about to get what you want. I hope that you liked this video. I hope that it gave you a little bit of clarity on conflict resolution when you are dealing with a man and how not to over-explain yourself to a man, and setting those quiet power boundaries so that you're not constantly getting in situations where you're debating the things that are important to you. This can be a quality that takes a little bit of guidance to develop, especially if you feel like you're used to constantly exerting power externally, like I mentioned earlier, instead of internally. So if you feel like you're interested in learning more about it and getting coached by me, then you are absolutely more than welcome to book a sales call with me at the link down below in the description box. I am currently enrolling for a 12-week long coaching container called DEMURE that basically walks women through the journey of developing how to lean into their soft power and their feminine ease and learning how to influence quietly and effortlessly to get the things that they want in life. You are also more than welcome to enroll into the program directly if you feel like you know what you want, you know exactly what it is that you are looking for, and that you feel like I'm the right person to help you. It would be my absolute pleasure to answer any of your questions. So also comment down below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on everything that I've shared here today. And that will be all. I love you so much. I'm so excited to see you again on this channel. Take care. Bye.